Evening, everyone. Hey, it is right at 8 o'clock. We're going to see who on time today. Hey. Who's that? Hey. P, you on here. Cool. Let's see who's on Facebook. Alright. How's my sound? Do I need to do a mic check? I think I'm a rapper. Hello. Hi. Alright, I'm going to give everybody just a few more minutes. Come on in, share this post. Share it on your pages so the world can see and get some of this goodness I'm sharing. Hey. I would love for y'all to just have a watch party on your page. To just share it so other people can see it. Kind of tune in and see all this goodness going on. Hey. Alright, so I don't want to delay because I have a lot of information to share with y'all. Just so y'all can kind of take it with you and digest it later and maybe replay the videos at a later time. Whatever works for you is fine. I don't think my camera's right on this one. How's that? Okay. We're going to do that. Alright, that's better. Alright, so we did a topic called love previously, and it had a lot of great reviews, a lot of disagreements, a lot of suggestions for a follow-up. So this is our follow-up. And when we talked about love previously, we talked about what is love. Okay? And since we're right on the tail or right on the beginning curve of Valentine, that good old made-up holiday that we like to express love and share love and all those great things, I thought it'd be a great time to kind of slide this one on in there. So we won't be talking about love in the sense of what is love this time, because we talked about that last time. And just to recap with you all, we broke it down into an acronym. And so the letter L stood for your language, your body language, your verbals, your nonverbals. O stands for being open, emotionally, physically, and mentally. V stands for verb. That's my favorite one, right? Love's a verb to me. It is an action. It's intentional. It's your effort. It's your maintenance. And E stands for all the extras and goodness that comes along with that. And that's something you have as an individual. So we're not going to dig into that tonight because we talked about that previously. What is love? And those are some tips of what is love. Tonight, we're going to talk about developing love, maintaining love, and terminating love. Right? That's what we're talking about tonight. Developing love, maintaining love, terminating love. Okay? And so, I want to thank you all for all the comments in my box, all of the emails I received, the questions ahead of time to kind of give me some material to look at. And I hope I get to answer those questions. But I know there's going to be some people that are comfortable sharing their thoughts on live. So feel free to inbox me as well. That's perfectly fine. I love those as well. Everybody don't have to share their business. I get it. Some people are a little bashful. All right, so let's talk about the beginning stages of this, right? I ask a lot of my clients this, and sometimes I ask my friends this, but I want to ask you all this as an audience. Who taught you how to love? And I know that's not a common question, and some of you have never heard that before. But when I say who taught you how to love, I mean who demonstrated it. What did you witness? What did you learn? What did you pick up on? What did you keep as a truth? What did you reject? And we learn love very early. It starts from childhood. It starts from the parental love that you receive from parents or whoever your caretaker was. You learned to be loved and receive love in that manner. Now, everybody's experiences aren't the same. So whatever that message was that you got really resonated from then. And it starts early. Don't disregard that. Don't discard, throw it out like who taught you how to love. Because those key elements are vital to how you show love and express love as you get older. So not only who taught you how to love, but what did you witness growing up? What did your aunties and uncles and cousins show you? What did the people in the neighborhood? Who was out in showing love out loud? Who taught you that it was okay to kiss and hug publicly? Who taught you it was okay to verbalize how you felt without feeling criticized or feeling like someone's going to think you're weak or anything like that? Who encouraged you to be yourself while loving? And who encouraged you to accept others for who they were? Sometimes we don't get that. Sometimes what we're taught and what we're shown is people that love multiple people at one time without everyone being in agreement. Isn't that a real slick way of saying cheating, right? People that love multiple people without permission. Sometimes we see domestic violence. Sometimes we've witnessed just a built-up tolerance for the BS. And sometimes we've never witnessed anything negative or aggressive, but we haven't witnessed anything positive either. And so there's a confusion in a gray area, in a gray space that we reside in when we don't know how to put love or where it should go or what box or things of that sort. And so all of those are elements of who taught you how to love. So if you ever hear that question again, that's what it means. Who taught you? Who demonstrated to you? Not that they sat down and told you to. And sometimes you get that. Sometimes you will have adults sit down and tell you, don't do this, don't do that, or accept this, accept that, this is okay. All of those little components that you picked up were ways that you were taught how to love. And those things translate into how you perform in relationships. And so I don't just mean romantic relationships. I mean family relationships, friend relationships. All of those things matter when it comes to love. And so in the beginning stages, we like to ideally come up with what we think we want, right? We want to build a bay. Like Build-A-Bear? We want to build a bay. And we want them to be so tall or so short, and so thin or so curvy, and so brown, and so, so much, we want to build the person. And that's not realistic all the time. You can have desires and you can have things you need because you know who you are as a person. But ideally, to try to build someone should not be the goal. And when you're developing relationships, the goal in developing relationships is to have the meaningful conversations, the tough conversations that you don't want to wait to have a year in. You want to have conversations like, what are your goals? You want to know what were your family values. You want to know how they value money. You want to know what their idea of parenting is. You want to know, are they okay with being affectionate? You want to know, have they been traumatized where they're not emotionally available? Those are the tough conversations that no one wants to have. And oftentimes we get caught up because we lead with lust. The other L word, right? We lead with lust because it feels good. We get caught up in the euphoric feeling of, I don't even know his middle name, or I don't even know how many kids she got, but let me tell you about the way that they did that last night. That's what we get caught up in, because it is very easy to float away. It is very easy to minimize and ignore all these other essential components of the person when that part feels good, and we put a lot of weight on that part. Having intimate connections, having sexual connections early, I'm going to disregard intimacy. Having sexual relationships, having sexual connections very early in a relationship really does cloud where you're going to go. It doesn't mean that it can't ever end up well. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it clouds the judgment. It doesn't allow for a lot of really clear cognitive space to grow because all of the other emotions are flowing. You're excited to see them. You can't wait to see them again. You can't wait to connect. You can't wait to, imitate what love is in that manner, but it's really building off of lust. So if you can have more of a foundational kind of conversation. Now, don't get me wrong. If you are over there with someone or have an idea with someone and you don't even care about love, then this ain't for you. Right? If you just want to have that kind of, physical relationship and y'all on board and y'all safe and y'all grown, this conversation is not for you. Okay? This is about love, growing and developing something that can be substantial, something that can grow. That's the developing part of that. The other piece of developing love is to be very mindful that you are not just seeking a label. You're not just seeking to be accepted by someone. You're not just seeking to have some level of inclusion with someone, or just to have someone to say that you're mine or you're mine. You don't want to chase a label. You want to be invested in growing something that is going to be able to fulfill all of the things that you needed to do, because love it can be fulfilling. If it's done right, it can be fulfilling. It doesn't have to be your end all be all. It's complementary of who you are. But when you're doing it just for a label, it can be a problem. Another thing in the beginning of relationships you want to talk about is like trauma. You want to talk about some things that have also taught us about love is we who grew up around religious, people, or you grew up in church, it taught you a different image of love at times. It taught you, I'm not even going to get into church because I know somebody on here going to be mad. Somebody going to send me an inbox about church. So I'm just going to let church go. But I'm going to tell you that church will distort some thoughts about love. It will. It will have you forgiving things that you should not be forgiving. It will have you co-signing trauma. And you have to be really careful about the fine lines about that. Another thing that we do is social media. This good old platform we're on right here. Social media will have people believing that they're in something that they're not. It will have them believing that they have all this access to people because they can just follow and click and scroll. And it feels like we're connected, but we're not. And so it would also make you feel like, did you heart her picture? Did you put an emoji or comment on their post? And for some reason, that today equates to something significant. We put a lot of value just on that. You would literally say, I've had people come to my office and they say, I say, well, how did you know they were cheating? Social media. I follow who they were following. I saw what they were doing. And those things meant something to those individuals for some reason. But how do we know a relationship is real? Do you know how many comments that Michael B. Jordan and Harvey's daughter got on their post when they came out and said that they were a couple? That thing almost broke the internet. People were like, oh my God, they are a couple. That is so... Because that's how we express that these days, right? Remember back in the day, you used to dress alike? You went to high school and that's how people knew y'all was together. Remember that? Hey? You used to dress alike, right? What happened to simple stuff like that? I'm aging myself right now. However, there are different ways that we kind of contest and develop love. And if that's your idea of that, then you have to create some level of foundation with that, because developing love is essential. This is also the part in the relationship early on that you can terminate. You can terminate right then, right in the beginning, right? Because that's when you can figure out if we're compatible, if we have similar goals, if we have similar outlooks on life, if we equally yoked, if we in the church, right? if we feel like this person's quirks can match mine, if we can feel like that's a thing, but if we feel like we're hitting this ceiling very early and there's not a lot of room to be ourselves and like authentically you don't have to continue in a relationship. You don't even have to call it a relationship. It's the first few months. You don't have to keep going. You do not have to keep going. Long suffering is a myth. I'm telling y'all that today. Long suffering is a myth. You should not be suffering 3-6 months in. We're not doing that, right? We're not shedding tears. We're not in pain. We're not hurting each other. We're not causing drama. We're not doing all of those things. You should be at the place of still unfolding and still figuring it out, right? But it's also a time right there in the beginning to terminate the connection when it's no longer viable, when it's no longer living, when we got those dead roots coming up, when it's doing that, okay? All right, so that's the beginning. Now let's kind of hit on some maintenance. There are just a few things to think about when you want to think about maintenance. But let me see if I want to answer any kind of questions or comments. Do we have any questions or comments?
Nikki. It's important to ask a person what their definition of love is.
It is important to ask a person what the definition of love is. Just as important it is to figure out where they got that definition from, like what they think is essential in love. And not just the love language thing, like not just how they show love or receive love, but what they really think love is. Because some people really think love is just doing things for each other, service wise, and not doing anything else. We have to be really mindful about that. That's a great comment. That's a great comment. Okay, so maintenance. All right, there's a couple challenges when it comes to maintenance. Maintenance is the stage in love. I like to consider it like the sophomore stage, kind of junior stage, if you was in high school or college, right? It's a stage where you realize, yep, I picked my major, I picked my person, and I want to maintain it. I know there's going to be some long nights. I know there's going to be some ups and downs, but I'm in it. So I want to maintain it. But some challenges kind of come along with that. And here are just, I just highlighted a few. The first one is acceptance. Letting go of trying to control what you think this person should or shouldn't do. Right? Accepting your person for who they are. And that sounds simple. And we say that very loosely these days. Like, oh, just accept people for who they are. But you really have to accept people for who they are. People will resent you in the future when you're constantly trying to make them be or conform into a way that is acceptable for you. When the real truth of the matter is, when we're able to be ourselves, we flourish. When you're with the right person, you're able to be yourselves. And that's another indicator when you're probably in a relationship that's probably more viable than dead, when you're able to kind of be yourself. When you're able to be yourself. Another challenge is now this is a hard one, but it's necessary. When you learn to coexist with your thoughts and feelings without acting on them, right? Like developing a level of discipline. My mom used to say, everything that comes up does not have to come out. I didn't understand that until I got a little older, but I get it. Every thought you have about this person, about what they're not doing, about how better they could be, there's ways to say those things, but not every day, all day, right? There needs to be a level of discipline when it comes to acknowledging the roller coaster of thoughts and feelings that come along with accepting people for who they are. Coexisting in a space with someone is not, it's not necessarily what we're groomed to do as children in an intimate space. We learn how to live with siblings sometimes. We learn how to coexist with classmates and things of that sort. But sharing who we are internally with someone is not always easy. So you have to learn how to coexist with them and develop some level of discipline for all of the thoughts and feelings you have that constantly, they never turn off, right? Impulse control. That can help with that, right? Breathe. Think about it. Consider if it's going to be helpful or not, or hurtful or not, and figure that thing out. The other thing that kind of comes along after that is skillful attention. Okay, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. It's a space for like cultivating an authentic sense of gratitude. I mean, genuinely a sense of gratitude. Not necessarily all of the things that we say in repetition, like, oh, thanks for cooking that for me, or thanks for picking up my dry cleaning. Not necessarily that, but things like, thanks for holding me through my night terrors, or thanks for not judging me when I told you some really hard information, or thanks for giving me great feedback when I was feeling unsure of myself. It's those kind of moments where you want to cultivate and develop that sense of gratitude that will really seal a bond in a relationship and help you all feel as if you are one. It will help you feel connected. It thrives and grows intimacy, and it is necessary in the maintenance stage of a relationship. It's just necessary. Another challenge that we have is self-reflection. Now, this is a big one. Self-reflection is not always easy. People say, oh, I look at myself and I know I'm not perfect. What comes after that? But I know I'm not the best at such and such, but don't but. Just be accountable. Okay? Use your relationship as an opportunity to just examine your own conduct and take responsibility for your own SHIT. I'm trying not to curse in February. That's what it is. Sugar, honey, iced tea. So try to take accountability. Take accountability. It is uncomfortable when we have to take accountability for things that are hurtful, things that bring us guilt and shame and others' pain. It makes us feel bad that we had those experiences and that we were to blame. So oftentimes we wiggle out of that space instead of sitting in the hot seat long enough to say, yeah, you did that. Yeah, you hurt someone, and it was someone important to you and close to you, and you did that. You inflicted that. And so just kind of being in that space of self-reflection is really important. It brings across so much growth in yourself that your partner can't help but benefit. Okay? Another part of just the self-reflection piece is avoid blaming and criticizing your partner if that's a thing for you. If it's something you do often, if it's something you do maliciously, if it's something you do out of trying to avoid your own shit. Did I just say? Okay. If it's something that you're doing consistently, if it's something that you're doing in an effort to deflect from your own stuff, avoid that. Decrease criticizing and things of that sort. You want to make sure that that is not a frequent vibe that's rolling in your relationship. You want to avoid that. So those are just some challenges about maintenance. Maintenance also comes with a healthy communication style. It also comes with an ability to connect intimately. It also comes with a consensual, healthy sex life if possible. And those are the things that you want to continue to work on if and when you're able to do that. So let's figure out after maintenance, let's look at how we can do the okay, hold on, because you about to throw me all the way off. All right, building tolerance. All right, after maintenance, in the midst of maintenance, we want to kind of move up. Now, this is where oftentimes, even in maintenance, that we oftentimes build a tolerance level for things that aren't always so good, right? But it can work opposite. We can build a tolerance level for things that are good and start to ignore the individual. We can start to take for granted all the things that they're doing, thinking that they should do. We can start to minimize all the good things that this individual, all the aspects that they're bringing apart, all of the goodness that they're contributing to the relationship, because we get complacent. We take it for granted. We just assume we're entitled after a while, like you've been doing that, or that's what you're supposed to do, kind of thing. Instead of recognizing that this individual is not obligated to do anything. And then on the flip side, people love to say things like, I'm grown. I don't need nobody doing nothing for me. I don't need nobody taking care of me. Whoop, de whoop, de whoop, de whoop. Except when it comes to that, then that's what they're supposed to do. There is a place for gratitude. There's a place for verbal affirmation. That right there is a place for kind of recognizing your partner's contribution to the relationship that they bring and what's valuable to that piece. Okay? All right. So let's get on to, I think I want to skip over that part and go to something else. All right. So nurturing and overcoming some challenges with love. But let's look at some comments real quick because I've just been rambling. I'm trying to get all your information in. Do you have anything?
So back to the question
Okay.
was asked, is it important to ask the person what is the definition of love? Someone asked, is it okay to ask that up front?
It is okay. It is necessary to ask them up front. You ask them up front, what is their definition of love? If you took a job, right, you would ask them, what is the role? What am I doing here? Right? What's my job description? You ask them about their benefits. You want to know when you're getting paid. You ask all these hard questions then. Love and relationship is no different. What are we doing here? How do we plan on doing it? And how well are you with, like, what experiences do you have? What's your past breakups been like? Now, people don't always tell the truth about that. They would quickly put it on the other mate. Well, they were such and such, and then I find myself asking more, difficult questions like, yeah, well, how did you contribute to that? Even if couples come to me and they point the finger at each other and argue the entire session, I oftentimes ask them, how did you contribute to that? Did you foster that? Did you accept that? Did you cultivate that? What did you do? So asking people hard questions, that's not even a hard question. Ask people in the beginning, what is their definition of love? In the beginning. Absolutely. You have any more questions?
Statement.
A statement? Okay.
Later in a relationship, kind of with the maintenance. So later in a relationship, ask them what it is about them that they love, about you that they love. Yeah,
so maintenance. Someone wrote a comment. Ask your partner what it is about you that they love. Ask them what it is about you that they value. Ask them what it is about you that makes you lovable to them or attractive to them or something that you want to keep doing. I think that's wonderful too. That's actually, that is a part of maintenance. You want to make sure that you two are still vibing on the same page and that you are still growing in a pace that will allow for love to continue to bloom. You don't want to love someone longer than they love you. They've already stopped and you still rolling and they way back here because they out of it. Like, that happens. And you don't want to be in that kind of relationship where it's clearly one-sided, not questionable, clearly one-sided. You don't want to be in a relationship where you are actually committed to someone that is already exited. Let me say that one more time. You don't want to be in a relationship where you're committed to someone who has already planned their exit. Okay? All right. Let me see. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining. I see some people just popped on. All right. So here are some just tips that everybody can use at some point in time in different areas of love. And I mean, again, family love, friend love, relationship love, intimate spaces. Just hear these things and see how you can apply them to you. I don't want to go. Okay, good. All right. So build resilience. Right? You have to have a level of resilience when it comes to yourself. You want to be able to pour into yourself. You want to be just as able, just as strong, just okay on your own to be a comparable mate in this situation or a comparable partner to your, or, be able to reciprocate what you're getting. So you want to be able to pour into yourself as often as you can. So sometimes people call that self-care. Whatever phrase you want to use, you have to have some level of resilience. Embrace change. People change. We are part of nature. No one's going to stay the same, right? So take inventory so often, right? Now, I'm not saying be okay with the kind of change that looks like every 6 months, right? Like, you want to be a hairdresser, then you want to be a mechanic, then you want to be an astronaut, now you want to be a teacher, then you want to be a doctor, now I'm a plumber, now I work at Family Doctor. That's a lot to keep up with, right? I just found a level of comfort with the last 2 changes, 2 years. Like, I'm not saying to keep up with that. What I'm saying is embrace the level of growth people have. Embrace the level of things that people no longer want to do. Maybe they did like that 2 years ago. Now they don't. Maybe they did want to explore that. Now they want to do something more. Embrace change. You're changing too. You want people to put up with your mess, right? Yeah, that's important. So embrace change. Learn how to love deeply. This is a personal one for me, because I don't think we are taught that, and I don't think society encourages that. I think when we see people love deeply, like on movies and things like that, we're like, oh my God, that is the sweetest thing. As if it's only in the movies, as if it's not attainable. Love yourself deeply first. Love your shit that you got going on. Love all the goodness that comes with you. And learn to love deeply. That comes with being vulnerable as well. And that's one of the scary parts. But you don't have to necessarily give all of that right away. That's not what I'm not saying. Do that in the freshman stage, in the preliminary stages. I'm saying to you, once you're into the maintenance stage, like, learn to love deeply. Trust comes with that, right? Intimacy comes with that. That is also the kind of love that helps you love them when the person isn't lovable. When you want to not like them, but you still love them, that's what that kind of looks like as well. All right. Be attentive. Be present. All this time we spend on our phone scrolling, all this time we spend outside of the house, all of these other distractions that we have, because the world has opened up a little bit, especially down here in Atlanta. Atlanta act like it hasn't been much. But I remember we talked on one of my lives maybe in the fall, and we talked about all these relationships that seem to be growing and blooming because of COVID, because everybody's sitting still. Now people back out in the streets, and it's a lot of distractions going on. So being present with your partner is important. When they're talking and they're expressing themselves, listen to what they're saying. Be communicative. Let them know that they were heard. Even if you don't know what to say, or you don't have the right language, or you don't feel confident in the language, be able to say to them, like, you know what, I hear your concern. I'm not sure what I can do about that, but please let me know how I can be included, or how I can participate, or how I can help, or I'm here for you if you need me. If you just want to dump, it's fine, or how I can help you brainstorm. Be present in some sort, okay? Because that's important. Something else is that we all have to get used to is letting go of our egos. That ego likes to take a front seat often. They just pop up like, hey, I am not going to I'm not going to do that. I am not, I. They do that in a minute, right? I am, like all of that. And so having an ego up front and center will always conflict with having a level of being able to connect to your deepest level. Lead with your heart as much as possible. Lead with your heart. And you can do those things when it's a safe place. But lead with your heart. Right? All right. So, accept imperfections. Accept them. Yeah. Especially if they're tolerable. I'm not saying the biggest things that's going to get on your last everlasting, but all the things that aren't perfect. Everyone isn't drop dead gorgeous, and everybody isn't like model bodies, and everybody doesn't have $1 million in the bank, and everybody didn't come from long years of education. Everybody doesn't have letters behind their names, and everybody doesn't make, like all those things aren't necessarily seen as, but people say those things are imperfections. I don't necessarily consider those things being imperfections, but where we come from isn't necessarily our we weren't in control of those things. All the trauma that may have happened to us are the things that we were in control of. Or sometimes people develop disabilities. Sometimes people, and that's why those vows are for grown-ups. When it says sickness and unhealth, that's what that means. Grown-ups, not anybody that's still wavering. You have to be able to accept the shortcomings that people come with. Learn to fight fair. It's a big one. So you can own your anger without having episodes of rage. There's a difference. You can be angry, you can have an argument, but you can still verbalize what you need to. You can verbalize your needs. You can express yourself without becoming physical, without becoming verbally hurtful, without being hateful and spiteful. You can do those things. So learn to manage that. I'm not sure if any of you watched that movie, Malcolm and Marie, on Netflix. The black and white movie with Zendaya and is his name David Washington? Denzel's son? Now, I'm going to go on live and say that it was not my favorite movie by far. Okay? It was very slow. It was hard to keep up with. It wasn't hard for me to keep up with. That's a lie. It was slow. It wasn't an action. It wasn't a comedy. It wasn't a romance or anything like that. It wasn't anything that we've ever seen, really, and it was shot in black and white. But when I tell you, I have not seen such scripted arguments like that probably ever. So compact. They argued like you would not believe. And I don't mean little bitty words. They said some things that made me feel like I had anxiety. And I have heard some arguments, okay? I have heard some couples split some things. I have witnessed some stuff growing up. That right there was some uppercuts. They was taking it. If y'all get a chance, watch that. That was not what we call fighting fair. That's the opposite of fighting fair. They said very hurtful things. Now, I do believe that relationships, once they pass a certain level of intimacy and maintenance, you will have arguments. That goes without saying. But learn how to fight without rage. It's really important. You don't forget those things. They leave imprints on our heart and our mind. The body will keep the score. That's a therapeutic tip. The body will keep the score. We build a tolerance for that. We will argue tomorrow in these toxic relationships and then say, yeah, this weekend me and Babe going to do such and such. The same one that you just said was that one? Okay. All right. So let's try to figure out Let's try to figure out how we can manage. Did it go off? How we can manage being able to discuss things openly in a way that I'm sorry, I think my social media resume. Alright, sorry about that. Try to figure out a way that you can manage conflict and arguments and disagreements with individuals without it being just a constant breeding ground for aggression. It's hard to recover from that. And then you create these scars and wounds that, don't really have to exist. And now we have this history of that, and that's unnecessary. Okay? Alright, so choose positive over the negative. Assume the best in a person. If you're with a mate that you are thriving and growing and loving and all of those things with, then something happens, don't always assume that that's their intentions. Clarify. Ask. Use your words, like we tell little kids. Use your words. Try to assume the best before you jump to the worst. Do that as often as you can. Now, if you got a partner that's on some other all the time, then that's probably the other conversation when we talked about terminating. That's probably part of that conversation. But try to stay out of your negative mind chatter. Our minds will spin on us the entire time. We will literally keep cultivating these negative thoughts until it becomes a belief. And we're over here sitting on these beliefs as if they're and then if you keep rehearsing it, it becomes truth. You won't have any space for anything differently. And if you sit on it long enough, you can write a book about that thing. Honestly, it really should have just been a paragraph, but you over here writing chapters about a thought. Be careful with that. Okay? Heal your wounds. Heal your wounds. We all have them. We all got our own stuff. We've all been sucker punched once or twice. We've all been in relationships that weren't the healthiest. Not necessarily the worst, but maybe just not the healthiest. We have all been there. We've all been, everybody's experienced some sort of a parental thing, issue with your parent or whatever. Heal your wounds. Opportunities, when you get triggered, it's just an opportunity to heal your wound. If you're not able to do that, it's going to spill over in your friendships, in your family relationships, at work, with your children, with whom you love. Those kinds of wounds spill over. When you have opportunities to work on them, do that as much as you can. All right. So last time people talked to me about being vulnerable and how hard of a time they had with being vulnerable. Being vulnerable is, to me, it's a strength. It is easy to not be vulnerable. It is easy to be guarded. It's easy to be defensive. It's easy to be closed off. That we can do that. That we can do. It is not easy to be open. It is not easy to be transparent. It's not easy to be to ask for help. It's not easy to be impaired. It's not easy to be fragile and things of that sort. You want to be able to be vulnerable. It's a strength. It's not a weakness. And lastly, I'm going to say to you all, surrender control. You want to avoid resistance. When there's a constant tug and pull, sometimes we say, like, pick and choose your battles. Pick and choose your battles. Like, you don't have to fight about everything. Everything's not a beef. Just because you can suit up, it doesn't mean you have to. All right? Just because you are licensed to carry doesn't mean you got to keep. Sometimes I have to tell my friends, put the safety back on. You don't have to be cocked and loaded all the time. Pick and choose your battles. That stuff is exhausting. It's heavy, and you ever notice after that you come down and you like, whew. That's how it feels when you're always on the front line. That song that Tamar Braxton got about being on the front line, that's some true word right there. That's a word. All right. Let me see, make sure I didn't miss. I'm sure I missed a couple of these things, but just wanted to give those things to y'all that, excuse me, you will be able to have in your artillery of love when you're trying to maintain these relationships, grow these relationships, and sometimes terminate these relationships. When we think about terminating relationships, I just want to give you all these last few words about that. Don't wait for the pain to be unbearable. Don't wait for one more time, one more offense, one more. Don't keep waiting for that. You owe nothing to anyone to stick and stay with something that does not feel that's no longer viable. You don't have to do that. We talked about dead roots before. We've talked about what love truly is. When that is no longer available, you don't have to be available either. It's okay to terminate the relationship. And you don't have to give this long explanation about it. You can literally think to yourself, because our thoughts control our behavior. You can literally think to yourself, this is no longer a loving situation. We no longer have the kind of love we need to sustain us. So we no longer have to do this anymore. I know. And I don't want to make it seem simple, and I don't want to minimize what people have for years and years and years. But people love to say that. We've been together for such and such. All you got is all those years. That's Nia Long and Love Jones. Remember she said that? All we got is all these years. Because that's what people like. They love to hold on to these stories. We love to rehearse these painful things. And then we love to hold on to little bitty deposits of goodness. Oh, Monday, we had a good Monday. So that's supposed to last you through the week. We had a good month. That's supposed to last you through the year. That's what we do. We get conditioned to little bitty deposits, little bitty nothings, to nothing. You get conditioned to that. You learn to accept very little when that's all you're getting. And then you're grateful for it. You become grateful for the little bitty nothings. That is what that looks like. But it's okay to terminate. Long suffering is a myth. You no longer have to be in that space. You no longer have to be compliant. If the relationship is not doing what it needs to do for either of you anymore, it's okay. It's painful. Absolutely. It's a feeling, but it's temporary. You will get a different love. You're lovable. And I don't think all of us believe that. So, just in closing, before I get to some of these comments and questions, I just want to say that as well. One of the things that I hear, especially as a clinician, is people don't always feel lovable. They don't always feel like they deserve the kind of love that they envision. So they oftentimes find themselves settling for what they're given. A piece of this, a fraction of that, things of that sort. When people say that they're single and they're moving, on a slower pace and they're kind of pacing themselves, that's fine. You're not supposed to love everybody that likes you anyway, right? Everybody that comes your way, just because they love you does not mean you have to love them back. And just because they're available doesn't mean you have to make yourself available to them. You have to be very, very intentional when it comes to that. That's if you're in that space. If you're dating casually and you're just out here doing whatever you want to do, this ain't for you. All right? This is for all the people that want to develop, maintain the kind of love that they want to have. So let's look at some of these comments and questions and see.
On my Facebook, history does not mean loyalty.
Having history, and that came from where?
That came from IG.
Instagram. Hey, IG. Yeah. History does not mean loyalty. I think we're taught that through family, and I think that oftentimes people like to, like I said before, people like to, kind of brag about, having all this time, and we have all these things together, and we have children, and we got property or businesses or bills, or sometimes you don't even have all that. Sometimes you got a full-time, a hot plate in a studio. Sometimes that's all you got, and you will swear up and down we have all this history. History does not have to be repeated, right? History is past. That's how you need to think about that. History is past. Any other comments? Hi, Dr. Shaw. Did you see Nikki's comment on Instagram?
Cool.
Dr. Shaw. All right. So on Facebook, she's on IG. Yes. So, okay. All right. So someone just told me that love is not easy. No, it's not. And that's enough. Like, there's nothing else to explain about that. It's not easy, but it's also not the most difficult thing either. It is doable. It is necessary. It is essential. It is ever-changing. It is reciprocal. And it is visible. Yeah, so you're right. It's not easy.
I did read her stuff.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, so someone just wrote me on this question mark and said, men don't share the... Alright, so on this little DM part. So men and love. I love talking to men about love. All kinds of men. Co-workers, friends, whether they're interested or not, whether they're married or single or not, because it's so important to hear what they think. It's so important to hear how they really plan to execute what they consider to be love. And I encourage them, regardless of what space that we're in, to really recognize who taught them that. Is that still important to them? Do they need to hold on to those old beliefs? Are they ready to do something different? Do they see a purpose for or need to do something different? And do they feel equipped to do it? You ever meet somebody and just kind of really listen to them talk for a while and be around them for a while and literally say they're probably not able? They ain't got it. And guess what? that's okay. Because somebody who is probably a more comparable mate will be better off suited for them. You don't have to make yourself that individual. You don't have to rescue people. You don't have to save people. You don't have to say, you know what? This person thinks that they don't deserve me. I am going to prove them wrong. Let me tell you something. You will be working hard overtime just to get that person to see you as not a threat, just to get that person to not feel intimidated by you because they think you think you're here or whatever the case may be. Don't have that fight that early on. No, you don't have to do that. Okay, that's going to be a struggle very early. Now, if you want to be on struggle street, then no, you're going to be on struggle street. Okay, love does not have to shape up that way. Okay, so we want to find ways to, who taught us how to love? What's your definition of love? Ways to develop love, be able to, I think about these dating apps we have right now. I'm about to veer off a little bit. I think about these dating apps we have right now, and you put up these profiles, and just because someone's cute, you will swipe their way. But under the profile where you're supposed to read, and it can say all these things that you don't like. Like, I got 8 children. I'm a starving artist. I want an open relationship. I smoke. I drink heavily. Whatever it is, in the back of your mind, you already said, I don't want to date that person. But because they look a certain way, you like, well, maybe they don't smoke around me. And maybe all their kids grown. And maybe when they say starving, they mean they're putting all their work into it. Like, you will rationalize some stuff real early because we're such visual beings. That's not what you want to do when you're trying to develop love. You want to try to be purposeful and intentional about what you're doing and how you're moving in that manner. And you don't owe anyone anything, especially in that stage. That's important. Okay? All right. I'm going to look at one last comment. Thank y'all for joining. So going forward, we have Valentine's Day coming up. That's a good made-up day that we want to choose to express our love for others. Try to be really intentional with that. Write a letter to someone, send someone a card that you really picked out, not that you just found. Don't wait till the day of to go buy some roses on the side of the road. Like, be intentional as much as you can. Try to do something different. And don't just wait till Valentine's Day. Like, be on purpose. Like, do these things more often. Be more frequent. Don't just wait for a day. And if you've been in a relationship long, it is time to turn over the soil, right? For them roots to die. We want to turn the soil. We want to bring more life to some things. That's important. And if you're in a situation where you're single and you are wanting love but you're not in it, make sure that you're open. Make sure that you're giving out the kind of language that shows a person that you're in a place to receive. Make sure that you're communicating your needs, and make sure that you're listening to what they're saying and what they're not saying. Okay? Somebody's calling you all the time and texting you, and all they're saying is, good morning, queen. If all they want to say is what you're doing, they're not really trying to get to know you. Listen to what somebody is saying and not saying. All that stuff is just as important, okay? All right, so our next topic, I don't really have a hard set topic yet. I would love some suggestions. I have a few suggestions in my box already, but if there's a topic you want to hear, if there's something you want to discuss, feel free to send me a message on IG, Facebook. You can email me at mbrcounseling@yahoo.com. You can visit my website and leave me a mobile message at www.mbrcounseling.com as well. You can also text me if you know someone who might be interested in getting some mental health care, some treatment, and anything like that, and you don't know where to start. You can look at Psychology Today, or you can send me a message and I'll help point you in the right direction. If it's not me, I'll be more than glad to help you find a provider that will be helpful for you. Okay? Thanks for joining, y'all. Happy love. Happy Valentine's. Bye.